This is the Courier 13 podcast with Werner Andrews. My goal with this show is to present conversations among filmmakers that impart knowledge and inspiration to people who are currently making content, or to those who aspire to make movies and television but don't have the know-how to start, or people who are just fascinated by the filmmaking process and the entertainment industry. My guest today is screenwriter and director Will Schneider. All right, we are recording. Will, thanks for being here. How you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, dude. I'm feeling good, man. I'm honored. I'm very
Oh,
glad to be here.
well, I appreciate that. It's interesting. I have we have never. This is the first time we've ever actually sat down and had a conversation before. But obviously, you just graduated from DePaul. I'm
Yes.
about to graduate from DePaul. We've been in the same program. Um, And it's interesting. I've followed you on social media for a while, and I know people who know you, and I've heard about you and your stuff in the peripheral, but haven't met. Haven't. This is really cool for me to be doing this with you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Like I knew Jimmy and your co-director, and I actually read the short version, the script version of The Climb before you guys shot it, because he was
Yeah.
a student of mine as a TA. So I've definitely heard of you. It's nice to sit down and actually talk, man.
Yeah, it's nice to put like a face and a whole person to the name.
Exactly.
I'm glad that you brought up you knowing Jimmy because it's hilarious. I told me Dylan, our sound mixer and our sound guy, and Jimmy, me, all three of us were on a Zoom call, and I told them that you were going to be on the podcast, and Jimmy was like, and that's when I asked him like, hey, we should show him our latest like edit, but before we go into the actual interview. And Jimmy was like, "Oh man, like, did I tell you? Like, he was my TA. He was, and I showed him the script beforehand, and he told me you shouldn't do it. It's too much. It's too much. It's so big. It's so big right now for a first time student. And can I say you were right? I can't say
Well,
no. You were right in that it was crazy to put that together as a first time students, and we learned so much going through it. But obviously, Jimmy loved you and so appreciated your advice and what and your and what you gave to him.
good.
Um,
I'm
yeah,
glad. I mean, the thing was, I mean, you kind of nailed it. Like, I don't think I told him to never make it, but I think it was going to be the first thing he ever directed. And there's largely no dialogue. It's a lot of outside stuff, and I knew you guys would have to like travel to the shoot, and I was just thinking about that being the first thing he directed. You know, but obviously it turned out good. So screw my opinion. Who cares?
no. I mean, but that's coming from you as a experienced director. I mean, obviously, and we'll get into your work and stuff. Like you've been around the block. You've done shorts, you've done music videos, you've done that. So
Yep.
you were basically trying to warn Jimmy because that like filmmaking obviously is very doable, and the whole reason that we do this show is to show people that it is doable.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it's not hard in the sense of logistics and finding the resources to get what you need to get done.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I'm really glad you guys went, and I actually really respected him for. He kind of told me like, "Hey, man," he emailed me one time. I remember like, "Hey, we're gonna make it." I was like, "Cool." I really respect that, because my big thing at DePaul was just make as much as you can. Make what you want. Don't necessarily follow what they tell you to do or not do. So I really respect that you guys made it, regardless. I think he probably could have had an easier first film, but that, that's okay. That's okay. It's
Yeah.
good.
No, yeah, well, that's the thing when you don't know anything from the get-go. Like, cause it was my first and it was his first, and we met and we were just like, we want to make a movie, let's make a movie. And then he had this idea for this script, and I was like, that sounds like it should be a short. We should make that into a short. And then, but of course, then we just dived in and we just thought, well, yeah, we're gonna make this. Like this, what's there's not gonna be any issues. Like this is gonna be a smooth. We're just gonna, get in there, shoot the thing, walk out
Nothing
of
will go
there.
wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
no. Why would
Never.
that be the case? Um, if you can tell by the way I'm talking, obviously that wasn't the case.
Well, things always go wrong on every
Things
shoot,
always go wrong.
so that's
Yeah,
inevitable.
yeah, yeah. Like there's so many questions I want to ask you.
Well, I'm
Like,
flattered.
yeah, no, s- and I want to ask you just off the bat, like
Yes, sir.
you're coming out of film school, you're done. You just finished that. Obviously, you've made a lot of shorts and you've written a lot of stuff. Like, what's your? Because I've talked about this with our guests on the show. What is your view on film school? Do you think you needed it? Like, actually, or in hindsight, do you look back on it and feel like a lot of stuff wasn't necessary or they taught you wrong things? Like, I guess I'm saying is grade DePaul, grade film schooling.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, man, and more people, I think, need to consider this stuff. I mean, the honest opinion is, and you probably feel the same way, you don't need film school. Of course you don't. To say you need it is kind of ridiculous. I mean, there's so much content on
Right.
YouTube. There's those master classes with guys like Spike Lee and David Lynch and whatnot. But I find the real benefit of film school, and I'm sure you found this too, if you do have a way to afford it, is the networking, the equipment, and basically the practice you get to do.
Mhm.
Like if you were just an indie filmmaker in Chicago or any other city, you don't get the practice runs you do in film school. It's like if you're going to be booking the Alexa, you're going to be paying all this crew, etc. It's not really practice at that point. Like the film better be good. And I think
Right.
one of the real beauties of film school is getting to practice. I'm sure you guys are, hopefully you guys do more if you can, and not that the climb's like a practice film, but you're obviously you get better every time. That's the hope.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it on what the good things that you got out of it. I think that because you're right, like, you know, you get so many times to fuck up in film school. Not
Yeah,
not not that that should ever be like your aim. Like you should never like, you should never go into like a school project or a little film that you want to do and be like, well, this is gonna be like my fuck up before I do the real thing that's gonna be really nice and cool and great.
exactly.
But understand that like, especially when you're doing it for your first or second time, you're like, you will probably not know everything. Your process, the way that you collaborate with people is probably not gonna be like I had to learn how to collaborate with actors. I learned a big lesson on the climb with that because and I wouldn't have known that unless I had done it and kind of had done it not so good, you know?
Oh yeah,
And you I mean, you know this with all that you've done, it's like you need that you need to put yourself out there and just shoot at the fences, just throw yourself at whatever project you want to do because that's the only way you learn. You don't learn
agreed.
in a classroom. Like you could have the best teacher, um and this goes for writing too. Like you can read all the screenwriting books, and I'm not gonna like diss screenwriting books either. Like I think some of
Yeah,
them are cool. I think some of them are okay. Like you should study structure, but like what I mean, and what's the best way of learning how to write a script is just by reading good scripts.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
and I think that's a matter of just teaching yourself by looking at what you admire and appreciating what they're doing right and then seeing, okay, where does my own experience and my own stance as a filmmaker fit in with that?
I think you nailed it, man. And another important distinction you bring up is the classroom aspect of film school,
Mm,
and DePaul especially. Like there are some really amazing professors there, but
there
you
are.
and you learn a lot in these lectures, and I'm very grateful for all the professors there. I basically every single one of them I've met or had at this point, and I respect them all. But you nailed it. Like filmmaking is about practice, not necessarily theory. The theory is important, but yeah, at the end of the day, you can know everything about directing, but if you don't go out and make a movie, who cares? Where do you use that? You got to actually show that you can make a movie. So that's what's good about film school is you get the equipment
Well,
and the
you get the
resources.
yes, you get the equipment, you get the resources, and you get community.
Oh yeah.
And that's what inspired me with this podcast. Like I wouldn't have like this climb thing would not have happened if I had not met those people, those people that you meet and you cling to and you're like, "Oh, I can see myself enjoying working with you." You know?
Yeah.
And that's
Man.
a little harder when you just go out and don't do that. It's a little harder.
Yeah, that's honestly maybe the number one thing about any film school is just the community and the networking, because all of you are there for similar reasons. And then the thing people also don't think of, because I went to undergrad at DePaul as well, and I didn't take it as seriously, and that's a big reason I went back for my MFA.
Ah,
But there are people I went to undergrad with that are doing big things now, and it's going to be the same with your class. Like it, you stay in touch with as many of these people as you can, because they're going to be doing big things. I can guarantee it.
yeah, yeah.
Like one girl I went to undergrad with, I don't know if you saw the Courier 12 panel or whatnot, but she's like a studio executive for Disney now. That's insane. I didn't even know that. Or
You
like
know,
ABC TV. It's nuts, man.
it's crazy. I was watching the replay of that, and just for context, Career 12 is like this screenwriting conference that DePaul hosts every year, and they invited. Are you talking about the alumni panel?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Sam Campos,
Yes.
I think is her name. Yes, no, so cool, and it just watching them talk because they're all DePaul alumni, and you just realize like, oh wow, DePaul's like really rising up
It
in
is.
in the ranks. Like we now have people who are like our executives.
Yeah, it's
We're like
insane, man.
making the decisions on what airs on television.
I mean, DePaul's really kicking ass now. I mean, I feel like because DePaul's film school is really young. I mean, I want to say it was founded in like 2002 or 2003.
Yeah.
So it's still in its infancy. I mean, it'd only be like an 18-year-old kid if you gave years to it,
Wow.
but it's
That's
blown
that's
up.
crazy. I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize how like not it's not that long since it started. Wow.
No, not long at all. So, a lot of the like really major film schools have a long list of successful alums, like the NYU's, the USC's, etc. But DePaul is still a teenager, So like the alums are just starting to pop off, and they're doing big things, man. So we're very lucky to have gone there, or you're still going there. So,
Well, I realize how lucky I am the closer and closer I get to graduating. Like you
yep.
you just realize like, oh wow, I've actually, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but it's like, oh, you actually set yourself up nicely. Like you put yourself in good company. Like even, doing this Zoom with you, I feel like, oh, like we're in good company here. This is a great conversation, because not everyone who wants to make films gets to talk with somebody or or like another person who's so invested in it as they are. A lot of people grow up in places and they're like I want to make films. And everyone around is just like, why the fuck do you want? No one around here does that. Like no one has ever done that. Why?
That's what's great about the DePaul community, man, and like film community in general. I don't know, because some people, what's one sad thing you might see, and I totally understand it, but something you might notice after undergrad, some people drop filmmaking
Mm.
altogether. I mean, I'm not going to say their names, obviously, but there are still some people I went to school with in undergrad that I thought were like the best directors. And now they're doing real estate or, whatever
Mhm.
it is, or just marketing. And I feel like when you have a strong community, it keeps you all invested. And it helps you get through the bad times, man, too, because there are some bad times in this industry. Let's be real. And
Yeah, no,
dark thoughts.
there's I mean, you always hear it, and even as a student, you understand that there's times when everything's happening, and like there's a lot of activity, and you're in the middle of it all, and then there's lulls. There's like, oh, nothing's happening right now, and I'm kind of anxious that nothing's happening right now.
Exactly. And what can be discouraging too, as cool as it is when somebody has a success, and I'm always very happy when I see something like that happen because I knew the person had talent, etc. But because of social media and how you're always comparing yourself to
Right.
other people, it can sometimes make you feel bad, like, well, why didn't I get Sundance, etc. But you can't linger on that too long.
No, no. Well, yeah, you got to understand that everyone is on a separate journey,
Yes,
and like everyone else, like the other person, like the other people that you're referring to, their journey is separate from yours, and you're in the right place at the right time for you. Like you can't, because once you start looking at other people's journey, it's like you're not. That's not your journey. You have to figure it out in the way that's the best for you.
exactly.
Yeah, it makes no sense to do it any other way.
No, that's a really good way to look at it, man. And on that note, I truly, thoroughly believe that if you try hard enough and long enough at anything, you're bound to have some sort of success with it.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
necessarily, like I feel like it's so not necessarily saying you'll win an Oscar, but you will have success, whether it's as a commercial director, whatever it may be. I believe we're all going to have some kind of success. The secret is don't quit.
That is the secret. Because once you quit, you have then guaranteed that there is no way that it'll happen.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
only
you
way
forfeited.
it cannot happen ever is because you're like, nah, I'm just done.
Dude, exactly. You nailed it.
Yeah.
That's why you can't quit, man. And we all take breaks sometimes. I mean, I've taken breaks from writing. I'm sure you have, but
Mhm.
we're always going to
I'm
get back on.
currently kind of taking a little like, I don't know. Like I don't know if if I would say it's a hiatus. Not really a hiatus, but it's like I'm reevaluating what I want to write, I guess. I'd
Well, I
say.
think there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
honestly, because I found I certainly can't write every single day. Right. Some people can. I think it's good to like just take your brain away from the project sometimes. So I think it's good that you're doing that.
Well, I think what it is I got through the first draft of the script that I really was enjoying, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's really cool, and then I went back to like do another like edit through, I went through it, and then I think I got to the midpoint, and I was making these revisions, and then I think sometimes, and I think, I mean, I would assume you probably have had this experience, or maybe not, but like you get to some like a point, and then you have to step back from it and be like, okay, wait a minute. I think I lost the point of it. Like I got
Uh,
so into like the technicalities of it and the work, I lost like what, because the arc of the character didn't seem true anymore. Like it didn't seem like, I'm just like, this just seems like a sequence of really nice scenes that don't really add up to anything that
oh
is
yeah.
really profound, or even like I like the script, I like the character, so it's entertaining in that sense, but I needed to like evaluate, like, okay, how am I progressing the character arc here? How am I revealing the character and showing the audience organically what this character is? I didn't feel like I was doing that.
That totally makes sense to me. Is this a feature?
No, this is a pilot for a series.
Oh, pilot. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very into. I lean more to the show running, creative producing side than writing features. I mean, I love directing. Don't get me wrong, but I love that. I love writing episodic
Dude,
television.
that's awesome, man. I really respect that because I've long known TV is not for me, or at least not my main thing. I really want to make features, but
Mhm.
I respect the TV side immensely. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know
well,
you talked to Tyler and a few other guests about your pilot and stuff. So it's a web series, right?
oh well, yeah, yeah. Well, with Tyler and them, that's Niobe. That's the web series. The script that I was just talking about, that's another one.
Separate pilot.
That's a
Okay.
separate pilot. But yeah, no. With Niobe, yeah, no. Those scripts are written, and that's the next thing after the climb and finishing up the climb in post production and doing. Oh, sorry, bump my mic. And then doing all that. That's the next thing. That's in the summer. Which that and I've talked about Niobe before. It's like that's the piece that I did during the pandemic when I was really depressed, locked
Oh
up
yeah,
indoors,
I
and
feel that.
it became something that obviously that it hasn't left me. The desire to make it has never left me, and it will be made, which is really crazy when I think about how that whole thing started. For you,
Those,
like,
mm.
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say those are the best projects, man. When they can't leave you for whatever reason, you know, that's how you
Yeah.
know it's right.
Yes. Yes. I think your intuition sets in, and it just says like, oh, this is right. This is it. Go do that thing, and then whatever else that can wait. But do that thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. But I want to ask you, like, how do you like? I guess this is a deep. I feel like this is a really deep question for all writers. Like, where do you get your ideas? What tends to like prompt your ideas? Is it just like when you're not thinking about anything? Is it just like you experience something and then like weeks later it comes back into your mind and then you're like, oh, that's an idea for a script or something? Like, how does it tend to happen for you, or is it different every time? Because that's also a thing.
You know that's a really awesome question and surprisingly pertinent to me. I can't really talk about it, but I'm working on getting this feature made that kind of deals with that very theme about where ideas come from.
Oh, okay.
You know, there's a lot more going on, but I do think about that a lot. And honestly, man, I find it always varies. Really, what it comes down to is I'm a big walk taker. Like I love going on nightly walks, just exploring the city. I sometimes don't even listen to music. It's just like brainstorming walks. I'm a strong advocate for that. And I know a lot of other writers do that, like big ones, less well-known ones, etc. But a lot of times I'll just be going for a walk and some idea just hits my head, like, what if this happened and such, and it's like, you know what, that would be a really cool short, or that would be a really cool feature. um like my thesis film, I it's almost done. I wish you could have seen it, but
I'm looking forward to eventually seeing it. Definitely.
yeah, it's definitely the biggest thing I've ever done. It's called Aguzia, and it won a screenplay competition, which was crazy. But that idea came to me just going on a random walk, and I had this image of a lunch lady crying in a kitchen. It just came in
Mm.
my head, and then I kind of started thinking like, well, what would make her cry? What else is going on in the world? And then it eventually became this story about a lunch lady in love with a janitor, and like her life is kind of cruel, and it's very inspired by like Boogie Nights and Punch Drunk Love.
Okay.
Those Paul Thomas Anderson's my guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I guess to like give you a succinct answer, sorry to like circle around
No,
it.
no, I please
They're
go
just
as deep as you want. I prefer, because right, I mean, like this stuff that we're talking about, it's so esoteric. Like it's so
yes.
like we feel like there's an answer, but then we think about it more and we're like, but really, where did that idea come from? Like it comes from the ether. It comes from like this place that we don't even know. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Have
I
you
tend
ever
to agree.
yeah, have you ever read the book like Crazy what no, what's it called? It's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
You know, I've heard so much about it, and I've actually seen recently a lot of people posting on Instagram that they're reading it, but
Yes.
I haven't read it.
Definitely take a read. That would definitely be useful to you. Just because she kind of like she shares her theory about just like how creativity and inspiration works. And like basically, I guess I'll just give like a gist because there's so many different things that she kind of covers. But like her thesis is like inspiration is not like just something that you intellectually come up with. It kind of chooses you, and you have to be ready to receive it and take it and run with it. Like inspiration will choose someone that is like ready to go.
I
Um,
believe that. I believe that thoroughly, man.
it sounds like it's very esoteric, but like given the experiences that I've had prior to reading that book and then post reading that book, I'm like, there seems to be a lot of truth to that.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, and that's something this feature I was kind of talking about deals with, like
So yeah,
how
I'm
how
sorry.
ideas come.
I
Oh
had to
no.
ask you what is it? First of all, what's the title and what's it about? Just so everyone knows.
Yeah, so
I want everyone to know. Well, I want everyone to
yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. There you go. Like I can't say too much about it because it's working on finding funding and etc. And there's some stuff
Film festival stuff and all that.
yeah, yeah. It's well, the hope is that it's getting shot this summer, so we'll see.
Right.
And I won't be directing it, but I really can't say too. But long story short, it's about like a college professor who's struggling. You know, she's I should really give a better pitch, but she's basically
It's
working
fine.
on her follow up novel to get tenure and is run out of ideas, and that's the writer's dilemma, right? Like
Wow. So
especially to get tenure.
your piece cuts to the heart of what we're talking about.
Hmm. Oh yeah, it's a lot about that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting you asked that question. You know,
No, it's yeah, like so she's like this literary professor
yeah, she's like a creative writing professor.
and I guess she needs to write something again. Like she needs to write the next best thing to prove that she's worthy of tenure.
Exactly, because
Oh,
tenure. They're always, they're hounding you, man. Like tenure is so hard to get, and your creative portfolio is very important. Obviously, there are other things that are almost more important, like your student evaluations, etc. But I'm just really interested in the academic world. I hope to teach college soon, so that's why I got my MFA,
oh wow. Dope. Dope, man.
amongst other reasons. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's I'm so excited to see that. Like how do you how did you develop my idea? Or not my idea, your idea. Your idea for
I'd love to develop yours.
yeah, no, that'd be really cool actually. Um like where so because obviously with the Plime we had a very interesting developmental process. And with all the scripts that I do, it's a very interesting development process. Like I don't have like a rhyme or reason to it. We kind of like it's mostly just well with me and Jimmy was mostly just discussing it, talking about like what was the stuff in it, the themes, the tonality, the character arc, and the characterization that mattered to us, like what needed to be in there. When you were developing this screenplay, how'd you go about that? Did you ask yourself like, oh, what's important for me to put in this thing, or like, is it just like whatever the character needs? Like, what's this character? What do they need for this story to work?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. I find it's always kind of different, especially if it's a short or a feature. Because I've written like countless shorts, but I've also written. I think I'm working on like my 12th feature now. So I find those two are very different. Like to me, a lot of my shorts I do are very like burst of energy, kind of sit at the keyboard for 5 hours and crank them out,
Yes.
then go back and revise. But features, I'm a big structure guy. I'm a big outline guy. So before I even write one page of a feature, I outline extensively, and try to figure out, what's this plot point, what's this plot point, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know, man. Who knows why we write the way we write, but I feel like the best thing here is to just watch a lot of movies. Because if you watch a lot of movies, you know what should happen after this scene, what should,
Yes.
the momentum here be, how should this climax go, etc. I mean, it's it's something there's really not a science to. If a scene feels right, it feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a matter of watching films and reading scripts. I think like
Exactly.
because we were talking about, obviously you don't have to go to film school if you don't want to. If you want to learn films without it, you totally can do it. And that's how you do it. You watch movies, you read a ton of scripts, and then you go find the people and the resources and you do it. Like that's it's actually a very simple formula. I think people really overcomplicate it. Like they're like, "Oh my god, so I got to like go to school, get in debt. I got to like do all these things and
Yep.
I have to go find the Zen master of filmmaking and learn from them." Like that's like while that would be nice, and that like that is a way like you can make this overcomplicated and eventually get there. You could just like every night pick a film that you haven't seen or that you're interested in, watch
Yep.
it in the morning. Especially online, it's so easy. You literally type in a script that you like. You can type in the script of that movie.
Yep.
You read the script, and then you have a huge understanding of how to do it and you learn how stories flow, like how it's supposed to go down.
Yes. That's the important aspect. I mean, what's a really cool like homework assignment to do, like you're saying, is just read a script of a movie you haven't seen and then watch it, and
Yeah.
maybe sit with the script, and then you'll see because there's always differences. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this, and I think someone on one of your episodes even said it, but the movie's written 3 times, right? I
Yes.
mean, there's the script, the production, and then the editing.
Right.
So the script inevitably changes. But one other thing I'll say too, on the film school aspect, what's great about screenwriting classes in film school is you get feedback on your work. And I think
Hmm.
that is so important, whether the professor hates it or it's like a chore to your classmates, etc. Writers need feedback on their work. And that's why I think writing groups are so helpful. I have a writers group. We've been meeting weekly for the last year since COVID started, and dude, we've had like 14 features written in that group by now. I've written two. One member in our group has written four. It's just crazy, and we all read each other's work and pass it back and forth, and it is so helpful because most
That
people don't want to read your script, man. Let's be
most
real.
people don't. Yeah, most people don't. You really have to go to your friends and go to
Yep.
people. Well, they got to be your friends, and obviously you have to respect their artistic opinion, and you got to really trust them. Like it's
Yes.
it's that. So like find those people is again goes back to community. That's why community is so important. You need to actually find those people to do that. But
True.
that's baller. Like that. Like you guys having that group. Um, and I have always. It's interesting. I'm a TV writer, and I love brainstorming in groups, but I've never been in a writer's room before.
You'll get there, man.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that the you're I have no doubt it's going to happen. It's just it's time. That's the equation. It's going to take time, right?
It is gonna
I mean,
take time
what you
and a
could
lot of
also
risk
run your
taking.
own writer's room, when your web series takes off. But
That's the thing, and it's so crazy because I literally there's 7 episodes of the web series, and I wrote all of them. I didn't even well, I can't say that because even though I didn't have a quote unquote writer's room for Niobe for the web series, I was constantly showing drafts to I'm sure you know Danielle Mason, the producer
she's
who produced
awesome.
The Climb, who's also gonna produce Niobe.
Oh, nice.
My dear friend Rowan Doe. Um, they are like, you know, they were the production designers for The Climb, and they're amazing.
I've worked with them on something
Yes,
really good.
they're they're great, and they also write too. So there's also that. And then another friend of mine, Justina, who's worked on The Climb, and it's also gonna be. I think she's gonna edit all the episodes for the web series too. Yeah, so like
She's a go-getter. I TA'd her, man. I remember.
she is a go, and she
Yeah,
is
she impressed.
really. She's like you know, honestly, I feel like I talk to her like when I need to recharge. Like some of your artistic collaborators and friends, like they're the best people to like recharge you because it's that artistic like this. Like this is energizing me up. This is an artistic flow of,
Yes.
I'm talking to someone who gets it and not and
Yeah, likewise, man.
thank you, man. Like when you go out into the world, unless you're with your people, no one else gets it. Like I could be saying the same things to someone who is not in film, not in any artistic endeavor, and they look at me like, "What the fuck are you talking? Why does any of this matter?" Like, you know what I mean? Like they just. And I'm not saying like someone it wasn't in film can watch this podcast and get stuff out of it, but like there's certain nuances to the creative process that only someone who's fully invested in it appreciates fully and gets, you know?
It's very true, man. And I mean, you speak on another aspect, which is the support system one. I mean, like you're
Yes.
saying, Justina recharges you, and I think that's really important because artists, I don't want to speak for everyone, obviously, but artists can tend to get really in their heads, battle depression and anxiety and these thoughts that they're not good enough and stuff. And to have people who are pushing you, like you're good enough, this was good, I like this, etc. That's really important because we don't want people bullshitting us on our
No.
movies and scripts.
No, you don't want that. You don't want someone who's just gonna
But
say anything to make you feel good.
exactly. So you do need healthy doses of real criticism, but at the same time, you need people to support you. Like, you know what? I didn't like this short, but man, you were really onto something with this shot or this performance, etc. Like, I strongly believe when critiquing anybody's work, you should find something to give them to improve upon that was actually good. You know what I mean? There are
Yeah.
some professors and some filmmakers that are like, shit, 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 shit. This was shit, this was shit, this was shit. We've all had them,
Yeah,
but you need something.
I always question the motives of those kind of professors because it's like it almost feels like at a certain point like they don't want the student to feel like they did anything good, like anything worthwhile, and I feel like
Yep.
that's not healthy. That's not healthy to do to a student. Like even if their student film sucks, and trust me, I've made student films that sucked.
Me too, man.
Man, everyone has. Everyone who's made something good has made something bad, or
Yes,
something that was mediocre or not like because they were learning and they didn't know better.
that's the
Um,
truth.
and like, yeah, no, and that's an important truth actually to say. Like, I don't think people say that enough because it's like people because when you get to that place where you feel solid in what you do, you don't want to admit that there was ever a time where you weren't that.
Yep, everybody acts like they're heroes or the successful filmmakers, writers were just like always success, and it's just really not true. Like a good anecdote that I always appreciate, like the big three Mexican directors, Del Toro, Cuarón, Iñárritu. Iñárritu got successful way later than Del Toro and Cuarón, and they have a funny story where like they saw Inarritu's first short film when he was just like a fan of theirs,
Hmm.
and they were like, "Oh, this guy should quit directing." Basically, like this movie is so bad. But he told them like, "Give it a few years. I'll be on your level. I know it sucks, etc." And then you cut to what was it, 10 years ago, and they're all at the Oscars together. And sure enough, Inarritu's right there with them. You know,
Wow.
so not everybody's successful right away, and everybody goes at different time waves. You know, you might be successful before I am, but doesn't mean it won't happen for me, you know.
Well, it's that well, and again, I love that this conversation like kind of goes back to it. Like it's the whole thing about separate journeys.
Yes,
You're on separate journeys. One person went on their journey, and they were no, and they're doing their learning process, and then they figure out stuff, and then they go in that way. That doesn't mean that you should ever align yourself and judge your own process with anyone else's trajectory. It's like you can only judge yourself with where you are currently and where you want to go.
exactly. That's a very healthy way to look at it. You just can't compare yourself to others all the time. You'll drive yourself nuts. Who needs that? We're crazy enough. We're filmmakers.
Well, yeah, because obviously, I mean, I've done this like when I was like really young, like and to say like I'm only 22, like to say that I'm like when I was a young chap, but like but
It's older than a lot of people in the world. So
yeah, no, there's a lot of 18-year-olds, a lot of foolish 18-year-olds out there.
yes,
But like I totally bought into that bullshit like, oh man, if someone makes a really good film, that takes away my opportunities for making a really good film. And like and like I bought into that, and I'll just be it's bullshit. That's it's a bullshit, and it's a loser mentality for filmmakers to have.
it
To
is, or
like
any artist.
for
It
any
is.
art for any person, like for whatever you're doing, like that's like and for me, what's really important to me is like when I see someone who's coming up, who's like my age, and they're artistic, whether it be in film, music, whatever, you got to applaud them. Like you got because that's you know, if you're not going to support them, who the fuck else is going to support them? And
Yes.
if they're not going to support you, who the fuck else is going to be in your corner? Like, you know what I mean?
I agree fully, man. And you touch on another thing that I talk about a lot with filmmaker friends because I have a lot of director friends, obviously, you know,
Right.
DePaul, non-DePaul. And every now and then you see a movie by one of your director friends or just someone in the local Chicago community that really blows you away. And I think it makes you feel like shit for maybe 5 minutes because you're like,
Mhm.
well, that was better than my movie. But then what I found, the real magic behind it is it makes you want to be better. And I think that
Yes.
is so important.
Yes.
I
That
mean,
that that is the right reaction. That's the correct reaction to that.
exactly. You can't just dwell on it for weeks and months thinking, oh, I hate them now. They made something so good. It's like, I like seeing a movie that kicks my ass. You know, it just
Yes.
inspires me. I'm like, I got to step my game up. You know, my MFA cohort, some of the thesis films were incredible. I mean, the
Mhm.
professors told us like we were the strongest thesis group they've ever seen, and I believe it, man, because there were like 8 or 9 of us, and almost every single film was incredible. So it just really kicked my ass, you know, and that's a good thing because then it makes you want to make something else, makes you want to improve. I think that's important with the art community, and you don't take it the wrong way. That's what's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. No, this you nailed it. Like, and I think it also applies when we're talking not just like your friends, like collaborators or just other people that that you have a relationship that you admire. It's also with your heroes. Like, did you watch? I mean, I watched with my girlfriend actually recently. I watched Malcolm and Marie.
Oh, I need to see it, man. I love all three of them behind that. John
Yeah.
David, Zendaya, and Sam Levinson.
Well, Sam Levinson. That's what I want to talk about. Like, um, with Sam Levinson, it was just like because I love Euphoria. I love
Me
that
too.
show. It's
I just
amazing.
sorry, I had to say that. Yes, sorry.
No, you got it. No, you got it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Continue though.
I'd be shocked if you said anything otherwise. Like, and I admire him as as a showrunner, especially for someone who like that's what I'm gonna be. Like that's such a great artistic level to aspire to.
Yes.
But I will admit when I watched Malcolm Marie and when it finished and I said, because I watched it over Zoom with my girlfriend. I
Mm.
was out of town or something. So um I said goodnight over Zoom with my girlfriend and then I kind of lay in bed and I'm just thinking, I'm just like, and I literally the thought came in and I was like, what's the point? What's the point of trying? That motherfucker just made that amazing movie that was so great. The writing is so good. The acting is so great. The visual storytelling is so good. I wouldn't have changed a frame. Like, seriously, like there's some movies that I watched and I'm like, I wouldn't have changed anything. And you did. Now there's some movies that where I do have thoughts like, oh, actually, I would if it was me, I would have done this or I would have
Of
changed up
course.
a little bit. But like with that one and with other ones, I'm just like, and that mentality seeped in, like almost like, what's the point? But then the next morning, I said to myself, I just because I've been there before, and I have to tell myself this, like, dude, what a gift that person just gave you as
That's the truth.
inspiration, like
Yep.
to witness something that good and so something that impressed you so much and that touched you so much. That's a gift. You shouldn't take that as a threat. You should take that as a damn, wow, I could make something as good as like there's the potential there to make something as good as that. Like,
That that's the right mentality, man. I mean, Dave Grohl has a great quote about that at the Nirvana Hall of Fame induction, where he says something along the lines of, "Don't look at the posters on your wall and think I can't do that. Look at the posters on your wall and say I will fucking do that." And I
right.
think that's kind of what you're saying. There's no reason. That's how I feel. There are certain movies that make me feel that way too. The last one was definitely Uncut Gems. I thought that was
Sure,
so
definitely.
perfect. It's
Yeah,
perfect in every way.
wouldn't change a lot of that. Yeah.
I probably would change it up, and that's like everything I want to do in filmmaking. And it's no, someday I will get there. That's my thinking. It might take 20 years, but you know that's how we should feel. There's no reason we can't do it. That's the honest truth. You need to build up time and money and resources, but there's no reason you can't make Malcolm and Marie and I can't make Uncut Gems.
Well,
Truthfully.
I guess our
Yes, of
saying
course.
of that, right? No,
Of
no,
course.
but I totally 100%. I totally get what you're saying. Like, it's well, that's one of the privileges of being an artist. You get to be in a community where you constantly get inspired by that, by the people you're with. So to be threatened by it is to like lose the entire point of having a community of artists in the first place.
That is so true, man. And again, if you're looking at our heroes and successful people, they're all a community. Like, David Fincher will get together with like Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh or whoever, and they show cuts of each other's movies. They'll trade scripts. Like they're in it as a community. So why can't we do that at our level? And every now and then you'll meet certain people who like kind of snub you, or they don't want to say anything nice about your movie or whatever, and I think that's just their loss. That's the wrong attitude. The really nice people are the ones who succeed. That is the truth.
That's and that's that's real. Like, I people undervalue, like, I feel like in college or in high school, like they should have a course just like on being a kind person.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
it helps you so much, like not even just from this perspective of like, well, I'm a human being, I should love other human beings. I should just by default, I should just be a kind person and I should expect no gain from it. Like, you should just be nice to be nice. But it's
Yes.
also like you actually get where you want faster and easier by not being a dick.
Dude, it is so
By
true.
being empathetic and compassionate, you get what you want a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Man, it's true, and it's relevant at every level. Like I have a lot of friends who work on like Chicago Med and Chicago PD and productions in LA, etc. And always like they'll bring on someone who's a very talented gaffer, key grip, whatever it may be. And when they're a jerk, it's like it's hard to bring them back for next season. You know, nobody wants to be around them, and that extends to every level. Like Shia LaBeouf just got fired from Olivia Wilde's new movie, and then
Oh
like I
no.
guess she
Oh
replaced.
no.
Yeah, well, he's difficult, but for a lot of reasons. But I guess whoever she replaced him with, she had a big, meeting before the first day back on set, and it's we have a no assholes policy now. No assholes allowed on this movie, and Shia is very talented, but he's an asshole. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I feel for those people because sometimes you can tell when people have like a bad attitude. It doesn't mean like they're genuinely just a terrible person. Sometimes it's just like they're hurt and they don't know how to deal with that. So they lash out at people. So you do have to feel sympathy for those people. But like it is true, like, when you're in the filmmaking business, especially on production, you're spending weeks, months with people. You gotta like them. Like you gotta
Yes,
like the people that you work with. Or at the very least, like you're good acquaintances. Like
that's the truth, man.
you
I know you
you
and
can't
Tyler were talking
dislike
about
people.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, dude, it's so true, and that's something he and I have talked about too. Because he was asking me once, like, "What do you look for when you're doing auditions and stuff?" And I'm glad you guys really had a good conversation about that. But my big thing, probably almost more important than how good they are, is if they seem like someone I want to be around, even for a one
Yeah.
day shoot. Because you just directed your first movie, The Climb, and I hope you don't have an experience like this, but I've dealt with very difficult actors on certain, and obviously not going to say their names. I mean, nobody would, but
Right, because you're a nice person and you wouldn't call them
yeah,
out here.
there's no
There's no
reason to.
reason. Wouldn't gain
Yeah,
anything from it.
exactly. But there are difficult actors, and I've kind of gotten better at getting to know in the audition room if this is someone who I want to be around. Can they take direction? Etc. That stuff's so important, especially with features, man. And I'm gearing up to direct my first feature, hopefully in October. And I'm very lucky that the woman who's going to be playing the lead is writing the script with me. And we work together
Oh
very
wow.
well. She's
That
been
is very helpful.
the dude, yeah, it's like the dream. And she's an amazing, amazing actor. Her name's Melanie McNulty. I'll name drop her, but she's
Yeah.
incredible, man. And I think that's like the dream, because she's going to know the character just as well as I do. And you know what? I know I can put up with her for 30 days and we'll thrive. Not put up, but you know what I know we can work together for 30 days.
Yes. Oh yeah. That makes everything good. Like the worst thing that you can have, I feel, is having a experience where you feel at odds with your actor.
Yeah, man. That is the
That's
worst
that's
feeling.
difficult. That is difficult. Yeah.
Another one I'll say, and obviously I still love this person regardless, but there are times where I've had friction with a cinematographer, and this was years ago. But what I found when you're directing, you don't want people kissing your ass, but you want people who will make you feel like your best self. And there was one time I got in an argument with a cinematographer, like just amongst ourselves,
Mm.
but it made me feel about this small, and then that affects everything else I'm doing. The actors could tell I had lost my enthusiasm. The crew was questioning what I was doing and my decisions because they kind of saw he was attacking me, so to speak. And I feel like that's just something to learn from. I mean, you don't want people like that. Even if they're the most talented cinematographer in Chicago, you want people who are going to build you up because your
Right.
confidence needs to be high to direct, man.
No.
So that could be
Yeah.
an actor or another crew member. That's why I say it. Sorry.
No, no, it's that's such an important point. All of the relationships matter because when you got when you because all of the relationships with your collaborators on set are critical, whether it be the set designer, cinematographer, actor, they're all critical because
Yes.
they all make an impact. Um, like and when one even when one like isn't like you can tell there's tension and shit, it kind of fucks with the atmosphere. And for me,
It does.
atmosphere is big. Like atmosphere is huge. Like you can't having a good atmosphere is the difference between a set that runs well and the set that feels raw and things get, backlogged and it's just, things seem chaotic and stuff
Man,
and
it's the truth. You want everybody going, being happy to be there, whether they're working for free or it's 17 hours, whatever. You want everybody to be happy there. And honestly, people are always looking at the director, whether it's the grip or the PA,
I think the
you know,
director sets the atmosphere.
totally
The
right
director,
along with the AD. And yeah,
yeah, the director and like this was something, and I'll share this about the climb. Like when me and Jimmy, because we were co-directing it, and obviously co-directing is really, I mean, it's really cool when you're directing it with a friend. When you're directing with your friend, it can be really cool, but also it brings challenges because because you always have to be on a unified front with every decision that you make with your people. And so me and Jimmy kind of had this agreement like we would never like we would have to have a lot of talks before every day of shooting and every night when everyone went to bed because we like agree we would never like have a full out disagreement with each other in front of everybody.
yep,
If that shit's gonna happen, it's gotta wait for like night or when like on a lunch break when we're like alone and then we can like talk about okay, what did we really mean? Like when I said that, I really meant this, and I don't think you got what that was. Like this is how the camera has to be. This is what the actor this is how the actor should be emoting it. Like
yep,
because I think that's so critical. Like if you especially if you got two co-directors and they're like constantly being like, well, you said that, but I thought we were doing this. But wait a minute, you said that shit. But like, wait, okay, wait, what? It's so,
yeah.
like everyone else could be like, what the fuck? Do they even know like what this film is supposed to be? Like what? Like what?
Oh yeah.
And
It brings them
that was a
around.
fear.
Well, I'll say two things on that. First, like I respect that you guys did co-direct and maybe want to continue doing it because I could not co-direct. I have no interest in it, but everybody's their own person, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of great co-directing teams out there. So I respect that you guys could do it. And the second thing, I also think that decision to have these talks in private is very smart. I mean, I always talk to my DPs about that before the shoot. Like, you might not like a direction I'm giving an actor, you might not like my shot choice, etc. If that's the case, pull me to the side and let's talk through it. I just don't want the whole crew to see that,
Right.
because
Right.
they're constant. One of my professors one time said directing is like being the captain of a constantly sinking ship, and I think that is so true. I mean, you arrive to set, the boat's
That's
like
good.
this, and then the water keeps filling and filling and filling and filling. And it's the director just, oh, let's hit this wave, let's hit this wave. And if they see those arguments, you're sinking, you know?
Because yeah, that's actually that's a really great metaphor. And
Yeah, I can't take credit for
identify. Yeah, no, but whoever your professor, like I identify with that metaphor, like
it. Yep.
and because emotional resonance, it spreads, man. So when like, because the director, everyone's looking at you because you're like, for whatever
Yep.
reason, you're the figurehead, like you're the person that everyone's like, that's a creative leader. And if they're not happy, everyone else is looking around like, I guess I shouldn't be happy because
You
he's not
nailed it.
happy or she's not happy, and like,
You nailed it, man. I think that's very important. Honestly, they want the director to seem thrilled and enthusiastic. And when you're sitting at your chair, like, yeah, let's move on.
yeah, whatever.
The
I don't
crew
really.
knows that. They're like, why am I here?
I lost excitement for this shot because it wasn't exactly what I thought it was gonna be. Like that, you can't. You can't
Yep.
go to that place, even though as artists, because we're so empathic, we feel so deeply about stuff. You can't let that shit come out. You almost gotta be like, you ever watch the show The Crown?
I haven't really I've seen like my mom watching it, but I haven't watched it yet. I know a lot about it, but
It's a good show, and it's literally about. I mean, like the main character trait of the queen is that she takes her job seriously, and she believes that her best way of being the queen is to not show emotion and to carry this strong, to stand as this very solid, stoic individual. Now, I'm not saying that a director should not exude emotion. Like when a director is excited about something, they should be like, "Yeah, dope," and
yes,
like when a director's like, "This can be better," voice that and make that clear. But there's also something to be said about being like, you need to project a level of certainty and a
yes.
level of foundation of solidness, you
That
know?
man, that is so true. And I think it's especially prevalent when directing actors, and everybody has their own thing. I have certain guidelines I like to follow when dealing with actors on set, but sometimes my actors like make fun of me for this, obviously, all in good fun. But it's like after almost every take, I'll say, that was amazing. That was amazing. And they like, that's like kind of a running joke with some of them. Like every take was amazing because I believe the big thing to me, actors especially are especially sensitive. We're
It
all
makes
sensitive
sense. I
as
mean, it makes sense with what they do.
do it absolutely. They're literally like peeling their soul out in front of and you got to respect that. And my thing is, why give an actor any kind of hint that you're not liking what they're doing? You want to make sure they take your adjustments. And I always give if I'm going to do another take, I'll give an adjustment. It's never just do it again. But that's a whole other theory topic. But I feel like I want my actors to know I'm enthusiastic and positive about what they're doing because if they think they're thriving, they're going to give me their best performance. Imagine if you're an actor and you see a director like, I
That
guess
would
do it
suck.
again.
That
It's
would be
like,
awful.
yeah, exactly.
I
It's
would
like
not
I've
feel
seen
I
people
would
do
not
that.
feel energized to do a great job after that.
Exactly. Well, you start. I mean, actors are always questioning themselves too. Like, did he like that? Was this good? Was this bad? And I find the best thing you can do is just have them in good spirits at all times. And I try to stick to that.
No, that's
Uh,
that's that's so wise. And I love your just like your thought process of just like every take is good. Like just cementing that. Like every take is good. Because you can think about it this way, every take, even if it's not the one you like, or even if you say it's a bad one, or so like something goes wrong, like it's getting you one step closer to that good take.
exactly. And of course, not all of them are good. You know that. I
Of
mean,
course.
there
Of
are
course.
some that are
Well,
really,
a lot
but
of
I'm
times
not
it's
going to
it's like
tell
the
them.
camera, like the camera fucks up, or like the camera, like the blocking just didn't work or something.
Exactly. Exactly. And the best thing is that was perfect. But what if you try this?
But 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 let's do this now. That
Yeah,
was great.
exactly.
I'm glad that you felt you could explore that, but let's now explore this.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
do
Let's try it.
this.
And another thing and this is like directing actor stuff, but one of the best directing tips I ever saw was from Ridley Scott. And obviously, let's be real, this thing you and I talked about over email, it's a lot different working with actors at his level than it is from ours. I
Hmm.
mean, he's working with Adam Driver on his new movie, and he's worked with the biggest actors in the world. So it's
Yeah.
different. We're working with, different, people who aren't famous yet, I guess I'll
Well,
say.
I guess the
But
people were rising up. I mean, we're rising up.
exactly, that's the way to put it. And I have no
Right.
doubt a lot of them will be successful. But his advice is I never tell an actor anything other than faster or slower. That's the only direction I give.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, man. And something I've seen on friend sets or classmate sets, they'll tell the actor way too much. And I am a fan of very little direction. It's one thing that we talk in pre-pro and we've rehearsed. I mean, I have to rehearse. I usually do 2 or 3 rehearsals before any of my shorts. That's when you talk. But on set, is not the time to sit there and say, well, remember this guy just came from Germany and his sister is sick. You don't tell them that on set,
That's well,
you know?
that's true because well, you don't have the time.
No time, man.
You don't have the time to do that, and also that's just gonna make because I feel like, and again, I'm not an actor, and I don't know. Like, I mean, I have acted before and stuff, but like, I don't know what that takes to really give a great screen performance. But like, I feel like great acting happens when the actor isn't thinking;
Yes,
they're just doing. So when you're trying to throw too much at them, like too much information to hold on to, then
yep,
their headspace is going to get stuck in all that ancillary information, which you should have done, like you said, in rehearsals or prep. Because
exactly.
there's a place for all that detail.
Hell
We're
yeah.
not trying to say like, hey, directors, don't
Don't tell
dive
them anything.
in. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a because when you first said that, I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with just faster or slower. But I think the principle of what you're saying and what Ridley Scott said is true. When you're shooting something for real at that moment, you cannot get caught up in like those minute details. At that point, you pick the
Exactly.
right actor that you trust. You've done rehearsals, you've had those long conversations. Now it's just like let them do what you hired them to do because you planned this shit out. And then if there's minute adjustments, let them know and then roll the camera.
E Yeah, exactly, and of course, he's exaggerating, and believe
Of
me, I've
course.
told actors way
Of
more
course.
than that, but
Yeah,
I
of
think at
course.
its core, it's good advice because
Yes.
another thing I think about a lot, and you kind of touched on this, I feel like actors can only take in one adjustment at a time, and I'll sometimes see directors like, "Oh, you know what? You need to pick up the scissors like this, and then also make sure you look that way, and remember this happened
Yeah,
right
it's
before
too
you got."
much. It's
It's
too
too much.
much.
It's like
I mean,
you can say those 3 things, spread them out though, one take at a time, you know?
no, that and I didn't even think of that. Like that's I'm sorry, this what's going on here? Okay. My
No
computer.
worries.
Like yeah, because I think I've made that mistake is I've almost gone in after take and tried to give too much. And I've been
Yeah,
like,
it
oh,
happens.
maybe get up and look this way. Oh, and also I was looking at your body language and I think that could, I think it'd be better if you did, and like you get almost like you start because you're a director and you really know what you want, you start to become like a machine. Well, the
Yep.
actor can't take all that shit in like a machine. Like they can take one thing at a time. Be like, okay, in this next shot, I will take this thing and I will imbue that. I can't take five things and
Yes.
imbue them into the performance.
Dude, that's exactly how I feel, and obviously, I've made that mistake too, where you're just telling them way too much, and it didn't really resonate with me till I watched Friends doing it a few years ago, like, just after every take, talking to the actor for 5, 10 minutes, and it's like, man, they can't possibly process all that. And then also, like you said, you hired them for a reason. And the beauty of film, and this could probably be like an encapsulation of everything we've talked about to some degree. The beauty of film is that it's collaborative. I mean, one of my pet peeves personally, unless you're like Christopher Nolan or Wes Anderson, where you're marketing on your name, I hate when a film's poster says a film by director name, a film by Will Schneider. I am very conscious to never do that because it's not true. I mean, I might have written it, I might have directed it, but it is not a film by if it were a film by just me, believe me, it would suck. It's a
Yeah,
film by 40 people.
yeah. I've tried to do a film all by myself. It's not fun and it's not good. Um,
Yeah.
it's never a film just by you. Well, and this just goes back to other advice. I think Tarantino said this during an interview. It's like, and I think this advice really helped me click into like the role of a director and like the role of like assembling your team. It's like it's not the director's job to create the vision, to create the movie. It's the director's job to have a vision.
Yep.
It's your job to have a story, to have a point of view, to have ideas. But everyone else makes the thing. So everyone else though, but you have to acknowledge everyone else is making this shit for you. Like you're the person who has the idea, and that's great. Like we respect that, and that's obviously that's really important because if there was no idea, we couldn't start making shit. But understand the actual creation in many ways is not you.
Man, that is so true. And I actually know the interview he said that in. That's the advice Terry Gilliam gave him when he was directing
Yes.
Reservoir Dogs, I think. And it is really good advice because on this macro level, especially if there's any like potential filmmakers watching this, it can seem daunting like, oh, Tarantino directed this movie, so he literally did everything.
He
And
did
it's
not.
really, yeah,
He
it is
did not.
definitely not true. I mean, the production designer comes up with like the actual production look, and then the cinematographer has their whole thing. I mean, it is so many talent. The best thing you can do as a director is just hire talented people, really, and then you'll look
No.
like a genius.
Yeah, like honestly, I think 90, I mean, and that someone said it's like 90% of what the film is gonna be is after the script is written and after you've done casting and assembling a team. Once you like get your people, you basically decided how good the movie's gonna be.
Yes. And while that is very true, like in a logistical sense, the other side of this, and I know you know because you're a writer as well, you can't polish a bad script. If the script is
Yeah,
bad, it
no.
is hard to make a good movie out of it. Not impossible, but pretty hard.
Well, yeah, well, when you say it's not impossible, basically it is not. It's not impossible. But what you're gonna have to do is you're basically gonna have to rip the whole thing from inside out. You're gonna have to take out the fucking skeleton.
Yeah.
You know,
And then you
put a
need to
new
hope to have a
skeleton.
good
Yeah,
editor.
yeah, put in a new skeleton, and then like the original idea may have been kept, but like when you got something that's really bad, like really not good, you really gotta kind of start from not fully from scratch, but you gotta start off basically like, okay, let's go from beat one and assess everything.
Yes, it is so true, man. And that's why every aspect is important. But, I consider myself a writer first. And you probably do too, I would imagine. And
That's where it starts, man. I think you have to.
absolutely. And it's, you know what? It's also a lot easier to practice. I mean,
It is.
I can write right now. To direct takes some
Yeah.
scheduling.
Yeah. All you need is all you need is you need a laptop and you don't even need money. You can get a free software and start
You
doing
don't
stuff
even need
like
Final Draft. You
you
should
don't
have
even
it, but
yeah, yes. And you should have that stuff, but you just want
don't
to
need it.
start out and you're like, okay, I need to just start off. I need to start writing something. Fucking Celtics, well, don't do it in Google. Don't do it. Don't do it in Google Docs. But like, but
Yeah,
like, if you got to do what you gotta do.
of course. And I mean, when I first started writing scripts when I was like 14, and I would do it in Microsoft Word. You
Damn.
know, I learned the formatting, and I would just adjust it as I went.
Yeah.
But Final Draft is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Final draft. No, no. Having the good tools is always a lifesaver. Um, and it's funny because you're talking about like, you're thinking about. I mean, it's true. I always think of myself as a writer first, but now I feel like I always felt like I was a better writer than like a director, just because I hadn't directed so many times. But now I feel like it's almost like it always fluctuates. Now, like one day I'm like, am I better? Am I better at thinking about shots and direction than I am writing, or am I better? Like you always kind of go like back and forth sometimes, but it's always that's
Well,
just how
that's
you
cool.
feel. That's just like your emotions, I guess.
I think that's cool, though. I mean, I'd like to think I'm decent at both, but I know I'm probably a better writer. I mean, at least like,
Listen. I mean, I have not had the fortune of reading one of your scripts, but I have seen some of your shorts, and you're not bad. You're pretty good.
well, thank
You're
you.
pretty good at it. Like I watched Interzone.
Oh,
I
that's like a class
love
project.
that. I love
Oh,
that. Yeah, I know. Like no, but like I love that. I think the way that you develop tension in that, and obviously the reveal at the end I thought was great, and I was like, that's clever. I just thought to myself, that's so smart. Like that's smart.
Hey,
Um,
thanks, man.
and and like you can tell, like every director, and even they don't even if every audience member knows when they're witnessing something made by a confident person. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
I
someone
think
who understands what they're doing. And that's how I felt when I was watching your stuff. Like it's like with Interzone, ERAM. That was the one shot one, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one very much too. Obviously, technically it's less evasive, but what you have to do with directing your actors, that was probably the hardest challenge because you just did that all in one shot.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was like a play. That was a fun one
Right,
for sure.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's a play. You're and that's great. That's great practice because when you're doing something that's like a play, then you're forced to really examine how you're communicating with your actors because that's the number one thing.
Dude, yeah, that was such an interesting shoot, and I'm still surprised that has had any kind of success. And it won 3 awards at DePaul's Premiere Film Festival, which was like the best night of my life. Honestly, that was incredible. Were you at Premiere that year,
No, I was
2020?
not. Was not.
Okay.
Can't tell you something. I've never been to premiere.
That I actually understand that. I mean, I haven't gone as often as I should. I do but it's a cool thing to go. But I'd understand if you don't have something screening. I think you should still support. But
Absolutely, no, no, no. And that's something that I do regret in my early years at DePaul not being involved in that stuff. Like, and honestly, I think now what I've done to revise that is to do this podcast, like to really get into like everything and really just because I want to showcase filmmakers like you and all these amazing people, and I want to like really develop an indirect community because I was in a dark place, man. I was in a real dark place. And I really thought and I knew what I wanted to be, but I couldn't either it was just depression, but I couldn't see a way to get there. But what saved me was embracing my community.
I think that's the right attitude, though. I mean, honestly, one of the best pieces of advice you could probably give to young filmmakers or anyone as an artist in general, if you show those around you, even if you've never met them, some kind of support or encouragement, tell them I liked your work, etc. Interview them on this. That's just how you make friends and build your network. And I mean, life is so short, and we all have so much going on. Why not support each other? You know,
Yeah, why not make the journey enjoyable
exactly,
for everyone, not just for yourself, but for everyone else. And I think that's partly what this is about. Sometimes
respect
I
that.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know why I did this podcast. It really was just an idea that came to me and I like the form and I love talking to filmmakers.
Yes, I do too. So this has been
So,
fun.
yes,
You
man.
know.
Well, wait. Do you have to get going soon?
No, no, I was just saying in general.
Oh,
Maybe another 10, 15 minutes or
10,
so.
15 minutes. Well, here's I'm kind of sad because it's like I feel like I could talk to you for like hours. Like
Yeah,
seriously.
this was good. This is a good talk so
This
far.
this
Real.
this 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 was great. But
Time flew, man.
I really just want to say, like, I loved it, and I'm gonna post. Is it okay that I post like your link, your Vimeo link, like
Yeah,
on the
please.
YouTube and stuff, and like, because
Cool.
I do want people to see the stuff.
I definitely appreciate the one thing I'll say on that too, if anyone, gets this far in and here's this plug. My When I was an MFA student at DePaul, I made 6 short films. ERAM is number one, and I would say the next 5 are all better. So it's like, just know my best work is not on Vimeo, because it's not public yet,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
you
listen, I
know?
mean, you're you're and as we all know, and I even see this with my writing, it's always a progression. You're always getting better. That should be what it is for
Exactly.
everybody. And well, it's good to see. Even your beginning stuff was good, so I can't wait to see the stuff that you're able to release later on. So
Thanks, man.
you know, you should
That's
feel
the
good.
Yeah, that's the hope. And like I mentioned, I did go to DePaul for undergrad, and I made some shorts before I went back to the MFA program. But really, I think everything got better once I went for my MFA. I think and this kind of harkens back to your first question. Going to film school to get my master's of fine arts really made me a better filmmaker in every single aspect. I think it improved me in every way. So you don't need film school, but it certainly helped me. And I'm sure you would say the same.
Yes. Even though sometimes I like to shit on film school, I cannot deny that it played an integral part in developing as the artist that I am, and I'm so grateful for it.
Same. And I wish I took more advantage of undergrad because really my first 3 years in the program, I almost quit film. I was like, I just didn't care. I didn't want to, follow the structures that they have of getting 20 people on a shoot, etc. When I was an undergrad, I thought I'll just make a movie by myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm glad now I have such a different knowledge and understanding of what it is to get 40 people together, make a movie and make it amazing, make it look like the stuff you see in theaters. And you can't do that by yourself. I
No,
mean, it's collaborative too.
no, it's impossible. It's impossible to make something of note without the right people. People is the currency.
Exactly.
You know, it is the currency of this industry. I mean, they say networking is the most important thing. I mean, to
That
tell
goes
you,
along with it.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for reaching out to me and wanting to be on this podcast. Meant a
Yeah, of
lot,
course.
by the way. And thank you so much for looking at the climb, looking at the sound edit. Um,
Of
because
course.
obviously, we're prepping that and we're advertising on Instagram about that. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, man.
Dude, I did, man. And the thing I'll say on that, hopefully this is a mentality that obviously I know a lot of filmmakers have, and I hope younger ones who watch this will take into. My opinion is if there's ever an opportunity to get yourself out there, why not take it? So when I saw your podcast thing, I'm like, I don't feel lame or anything about asking to be on it because it's an opportunity to get myself out there. You
Mhm.
got to shoot your shot, man. Even if it's something like this, or if it's meeting a studio executive in LA and pitching something in an elevator, whatever it is, you got to be able to shoot your shot. You got to be ready for that. And social media exposure is so important now. Why not take that chance?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to amend what I said. It's currency. The currency of this industry is people and courage.
Yeah, it
Courage.
does. It does
Courage
not
is
reward
you.
the timid.
Yes. It's because there are when you're playing in this game and you have committed yourself, opportunities will reveal themselves to you. But I think what separates those who do and those who do not do it, it really is those. It's really that. It's do they have the courage to say, okay, I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna do it with everything that I got. And I'm not gonna worry about what could go wrong.
I think that's a great piece of advice. And the note I'll give on that, when I won the Blue Cat screenplay competition, when I submitted, I didn't even know that it was founded and judged and ran by Philip Seymour Hoffman's brother, Gordy
Really?
Hoffman.
Did not
Yeah,
know that.
dude, it's incredible. Yeah, it's worth looking at. You should submit to it, man. It's one of the best screenplay competitions out there. I mean, they've helped me a lot, and I love them forever. But when I met him, we basically spent a whole day together, and he was giving me advice and stuff. Probably the best piece of advice he gave me. Obviously, I'm a very nice person, and I can be shy and timid. But near the end of our hang, he kind of told me, Will, stop being so shy and bashful and humble. You're not going to make it, you know? And he didn't mean it in a mean way. What he meant is that you got to put yourself out there, honestly. And it is entirely true. If I'm just sitting in my room all day going, I don't want to share these scripts with anyone. I don't want to post on Instagram, whatever. How is anyone going to know about me, you know? And obviously it extends beyond that. But I thought that's great advice. I mean, all of our heroes, all the successful titans out there, they shot their shots. You know, Sofia Coppola and Paul Thomas Anderson aren't sitting in their rooms afraid to show they went out there and they're badasses and they're brave. That's what we should aspire to be, you know?
Right. And I think courage can be something that is learned and something that you can grow in, because I don't think that like Paul Thomas Anderson, Sofia Coppola, Ava DuVernay, all these great people, some of them probably started off with just being like courageous and just very extroverted, but we all know a lot of artists, most great artists are introverts.
Yes.
So
And I am too.
yes, I am as well. And so to someone out there who might feel like, I'm not the most extroverted person. I kind of am shy. I kind of am. You can develop that. You can develop that muscle.
Yes.
Um, like you can actually start becoming more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is
Yes.
something that's not like you're either born with it and you have it and that's it. It's like you can be very shy and not like that, but then motivate yourself because you want this so much. That'll actually motivate you to like get out there to do those things. It certainly did it for me.
Yeah. No, you nailed it, man. I mean, that's so true. Like, obviously, a lot of great directors are introverts. Like, especially think of like a Wes Anderson or like a David Lynch or something. Those guys definitely seem like they keep to themselves and are probably very quiet. But you know what? When it comes to the right time and the right place, they're they're the loudest person in the room, and they're going to go to death for their projects.
Right.
Because the thing is, again, it's, I think I said this earlier, this industry does not reward the timid.
Mhm.
You got to be able to take risks and put yourself out there, especially as a director, man, because production can be maddening. I'm sure The Climb was driving you insane a little bit, and
Yeah, no, we
you know,
no sleep, not a lot of eating, not a lot of drinking of water, which I would
yes,
not recommend. I would recommend getting sleep. I would recommend eating, and I would recommend drinking water.
and
um,
yes,
yeah.
and I can totally echo you on that. When I shot my thesis, which was basically 3 years in the works, it won the screenplay competition. I raised like $15,000 to make it. It was, dude, my brain was going nuts with fear and anxiety to make that movie. And our very first day, man, we had 50 extras, 40 crew members, a steady cam operator that we had hired, intense dolly shot. It was basically the most intense first day of a shoot you could have
Yeah.
possibly, which
Mhm.
was stupid. And I would strongly encourage any directors, never make your hardest day first. I learned the hard way. Don't do that. But I only slept 20 minutes that night. And I know I made mistakes that day that I would not have otherwise made. And I'm forever paying for them, because I think what we have is still pretty good, but you can tell what I shot day one and what I shot day four. Like, it's still
Mm,
good, but it is so different, man.
I definitely think on a level we did experience that for some scenes of The Climb. Definitely. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
And that's
and that's true. Just but you know what's crazy though? Like some, like sometimes you gotta be like, what? Sometimes you just gotta be like, well, is that fate? Like, is that like just the learning process? Because like once we got into the editing and like we talked about this, like the script gets rewritten when you're writing the script, production, and then editing. For The Climb, the story was definitely rewritten in the edit.
yeah.
And we took
Yeah.
out scenes that weren't working, and we took out things that were not contributing to the story. but it got good because of that. Like that's the thing. Like some of the stuff that we shot were like, that's not that good. We realized that, oh, these scenes that we shot that weren't that good actually aren't necessary to this. Like, they don't build the
Yes.
story up really. So we took that shit out, and it kind of like worked out in that way. So then I'm like, well, fuck it. Were those scenes supposed to not work? Like, because
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who, like, thinks very like retrospectively, and I'm like, well, what's that? Because I think there's a meaning to everything. Like, I'm not a person that's like shit just happens randomly. Like,
Well, that's an interesting thing too. Like when you end up cutting scenes, and I learned so much on my thesis, but probably one of the biggest things too, just because it was an award-winning script, so many professors at DePaul hardly gave me any notes. They're like, "Why would we give you notes? You won. You beat 1,200 people in this contest. What improvements can you make to the script?" But what I've learned is just because the script works how it is does not mean the short film necessarily will. And
right?
I'm very proud of my thesis film. I'm going to show it to you soon. It's almost done.
Yes,
I think you'll get a kick out of it.
yes, great.
But there were mistakes I made script wise that I not necessarily script, but there were things I wish I had tweaked, I should say, before I shot it, and I didn't because I had the contest win, and that will never happen again. To me, if I'm going to shoot something, I got to make sure I know it's going to work as an actual viewable product, not just on the page, because what works on the page necessarily won't work on screen, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. No, and any director knows that. Uh, like Tarkovsky, the director, Andrei Tarkovsky, like he wrote in his
It's
book,
great.
like that's the problem when you have like a writer and director situation, and they're not the same thing, because the writer will want things that make sense from a literary perspective to put in the script, but then the director will be like, wait, but the visual vision that I am seeing, that won't help that at all. So, but even when the writer and director are the same person, there's still problems, because then the director will be like, because I'm the kind of screenwriter where I don't like I like putting in detail into my scripts. Not like an insane amount of detail where it's like paragraphs long, but like I like using words that are nice. I like using, like, I'm not the screenwriter who writes very like minimalistic action.
That's how I am. My scripts are very simple. It's basically he walks to the fridge dialogue.
Well,
Very
here's a
simple.
no, no, and I totally get that, because it's that the actor has to read it and just kind of like understand the scene. And I actually, I found that actually I have to take a step back from that, from like my way of doing it, because sometimes I'm like, sometimes you just got to write what's happening,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not be so enthralled in how it's written. But I think that's because I read a lot of novels as a kid, so
Oh, for sure.
I have to kind of like balance it out. Like, okay, there's a point where I still got to remember that this is a screenplay, but also it is art. Like, the
Yeah.
script is art, and I do want to treat it like that at the same time.
Yeah, and there's really no right or wrong answer. My
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, teach their own. I mean, great screenwriters. You look at Aaron Sorkin, and it's just filled and filled with details and dialogue, and then somebody like Andrea Arnold, there's almost nothing. So there's no real right or wrong answer. What I try to think of when I write the script, for better or worse, is that nobody wants to read a script, and something I've been complimented on is that whether they like my story or not, my scripts are very easy to read. I've had people
Mm.
tell me, "Oh, I'm on page 70," and I didn't even realize it. And I'm proud of that because it's just all super simple.
So
And
how do you do that? Do you just make sure there's a lot of like? Is it just the words you use? Is it how you space things out?
I think it's a combination of those things amongst others. I mean, my action description is very bare. Not
Mm.
saying the movie's all dialogue because that's not true, but my action description is bare. But then when it's long, it's an important moment. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes.
It's like I try to think of the shots that I want the audience to see. And they always say screenwriters shouldn't direct when they're writing, don't put your shots in. But I
Mm.
find if you're a good writer, you kind of do that and cheat it,
You do it without being obvious about it.
Exactly. Like if you were to write Will's eyes turn red and start tearing up, it's like, we were probably in a close up.
Right.
And then if you have like 6 lines of a woman walking through a cafeteria or whatever, and there's no spacing, your brain kind of sees it like a tracking shot, you know? So there's sly ways you can do
Mm.
that stuff.
Right, right. No, that's something that I've had to learn because I love Ari Aster films, and a lot of
Right.
times his screenplays he will literally put shots in,
Yeah.
and I like I admire that as a writer director, but also I've come to realize because I've done developmental, like I've worked with like I did a remote internship with Romark Entertainment. It's like this production company and a talent agency out in LA. And
Oh yeah.
like you come to understand like, oh, people tend to not like it when you do shit like that, when you just kind of say it because the agent has to sell it
Yeah.
and it's gotta be a good like fluid read. So I actually have kind of come back on that stance. I've actually like been like, maybe I should avoid being so directorial in how I write.
Yeah, and they always say that's a big no-no, but the thing is, like, you gotta know the context of the script you're reading and what the influence is going to be. Because if you're reading a Tarantino script or even Ari Aster now, I would not necessarily try to steal too much from them because their scripts are getting made no matter what. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily try to steal their shot techniques or how they
Mm,
do the action because look, if you get a script from Quentin Tarantino, you're making it. You know what I mean?
right.
You're still gonna think it's a good story or analyze that. But what I've found is more helpful for me is looking at spec scripts that have sold, scripts
Mm-hmm.
from like undiscovered writers, like the Little Miss Sunshine script or the script for Cake or The Wrestler. Those are the ones I look at influences because that's how I would break in, is writing a spec. I'm
Right.
not going to get a feature made on the name Will Schneider. Hopefully someday, but so that's why they put shots in their scripts and nobody
Yeah, yeah.
cares.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially with Tarantino and because Ari Aster and them, they can do that at a
Yeah.
certain point.
Yes, they can. And
Which
they know they're directing them too.
right,
That's
right.
important.
That is important. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right about that. That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, screenwriting's such a quirky and I don't know. I love it though, man. Like I love writing. I love reading people's stuff. That's why I have my writers group. You know, um,
Yeah.
it's such a cool. I like it more than directing, to be honest. Obviously, I love directing, and I feel like I have an addiction in my brain where I have to direct. That's why I feel like I'm making a short like every 4 months, but it's addicting. You
That's
know,
good. That's good. You need that. Well, you always need to have your sights on what's next.
exact dude.
You
I think
always
that's
gotta
so
be like, even if it's like a year from now or something, like you gotta be like, okay, I know what's gonna be next. I have ideas on what the next story is gonna be.
You're
Always.
absolutely right, man. I mean that I think that's an important thing too if you want to make it as a filmmaker. And it's funny. Tyler said it when he was being interviewed. He's like, "Well, I haven't made it yet," and I haven't
I
either.
kind of
But
hate when people use that because it's like I don't know because I get it, but like your journey is still valid even though you haven't reached or you maybe haven't gotten what you value as success, like like what you think of as like when I get this, I'll be successful. Like you're still a filmmaker,
yes,
like you're still doing the damn thing,
dude, exactly. That's how I feel. I mean, both you and I, obviously, we have aspirations for bigger things, but the fact that we are where we are is still very important. I
Mhm.
mean, you've made an awesome short film. I'm working on a feature. I just finished 6 short films. That is nothing to scoff at. You know, we can sometimes beat ourselves up, but we should still be proud, you know. And there are people who are afraid to try filmmaking, and hopefully this podcast encourages them to give it a shot, you know.
Well, that's honestly, that's the whole point of
Yeah.
this. The whole point of this is that I hope someone out there is like, who's been like, you know, man, I don't have the confidence to do it, or I don't know the people. Like, to see a conversation like this and be like, you know what, it actually is doable. It's very doable.
Yes, it is, man.
It's
And
very doable.
it entirely is. And I would say, you know, if anyone's listening and made it this far, whatever scene you're in, whatever city you're in, even if you can't go to film school, there are so many ways you can meet other filmmakers, like Reddit or Facebook groups. And there are so many ins you have to network and meet people. I mean, the
I
most important. Oh, go ahead.
just
Rant.
IMDb Pro is a great resource. If you can get IMDb Pro, connects you with a bunch of people. You can call people's agents and stuff.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Very helpful. But continue. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're good. I mean, all of that stuff is pertinent, and there's so many ways now. And as long as you're a nice person and you're supportive, I mean, there's no reason you can't network or get a shot to PA on somebody's movie, etc. Like I know Jimmy PA'd on one of my movies, and I don't know.
I remember telling about that. What movie was that?
It's called Goodbye Janet. We're kind of
Yes,
finishing that.
I remember hearing great stuff about that stuff because every time me and Jimmy would meet up to like talk about the climb and talk about getting people, like even when we were developing it, he would talk about coming back from your sets and be like, "Man, we gotta do shit like what they're doing. We gotta like have this and this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, cool. I'll write that shit down. Let's go."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And he was great on set, and that was a bit of a chaotic day. I mean, the first day always is, but like, yeah, it's just, you know, what was cool is he took that chance. And it's not like I'm some big established person, but he came and PA'd on my movie. And I hope he at least learned something. Even if he learned what not to do, at least he learned something, you know? So I don't know, man. Like you just got to take your shot, and there's no reason not to get yourself out there and direct.
yeah. Just do the damn thing.
Exactly.
Honestly, just do the damn thing. Well, man, this was great. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, this was great. I'm very glad that you reached out to me. Glad that we got to do this. I always kind of forget to do this at the end of like podcasts and stuff, but like where can people reach you or like find you?
I'm glad you asked that because that's what I was going to say. So, if you want to look at any of my public work, you could go to vimeo.com/Will Schneider 82. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is conveniently Will Schneider 82.
Nice.
And I would say if you want any kind of, you know, advice, or you want to talk through anything, or have me look at a script, etc., feel free to reach out to me. I hope to be a professor, and it's very important to me to work with young people and, you know, usher in the next generation of filmmakers. So feel free to reach out to me. Will Schneider 82.
I love that. I love that, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to see your stuff. I can't wait to see that film you were talking about. I can't wait for you to direct that feature film. Can't wait to see that. Also, if you got any notes on the climb cut, definitely send them my way. I'd be glad to hear any. I mean, I know you like some stuff. If there's anything that you were questioning, I would love to hear that too, because obviously I would really value your opinion on that. And Jimmy would as well, I'm sure.
Well, thank you so much, man. And I'll be sure to do that. And I hope to see more from you guys soon too, obviously. Keep going with this, man, and keep making stuff. That's all we can do.
And that is all we can do. Well, I think that's the show. Thank you so much again.
Thanks. As Howard Stern says, we've said it all.
We've said it all.
We've said it all. All right. Thank you, man.
Peace, man.
Bye, everyone.